Imagine soldiers who can't laugh, can't scratch an itch, and risk losing a week's pay for even a smile. Queen Elizabeth's security wasn't just ceremonial, it was a fortress of discipline, tradition, and hidden firepower. From guards fainting face first to $9,000 bearskin hats that double as symbols of victory, every detail is extreme. Stay until the end when we reveal the billion-dollar secret behind how her protection truly worked. The no smiling rule and ruthless discipline. One of the most shocking aspects of Queen Elizabeth's security was not hidden weapons or secret tunnels, but the sheer discipline demanded from the Queen's Guard. These soldiers, dressed in their iconic red tunics and bearskin hats, stand motionless for hours in front of Buckingham Palace and St. James's Palace. What many tourists don't realize is that their stoic expressions aren't just tradition, they are enforced by strict rules with real financial consequences. Guards are forbidden from smiling, laughing, or breaking composure. If a soldier so much as cracks a grin while on duty, they face penalties that can strip away several days' pay. In practical terms, that means losing between $250 and $450, a significant sum for men and women serving on military salaries. This isn't symbolic. It's a system designed to ensure that the Queen's Guard always projects authority, discipline, and unwavering readiness. The reason behind this rule is as much psychological as it is practical. A guard who looks approachable or amused risks undermining the aura of control surrounding the monarchy. Every detail, from the sharp crease in their trousers to the polished shine of their boots, contributes to the larger image of a monarchy that commands respect. The uniforms themselves are expensive to maintain. Each bearskin hat can cost up to $1,200, and soldiers are expected to keep them pristine despite rain, sweat, or the taunts of tourists. It's easy to assume these men are simply ceremonial actors, but in reality, they are fully trained soldiers from the British Army. Their discipline is drilled to perfection. When standing guard in front of thousands of visitors every day, they endure the urge to itch, adjust, or even respond to provocation. To the public, their unflinching silence becomes a performance of power. To the royals, it is an assurance that composure and professionalism protect the crown as much as any weapon. So, what do you think? Does the loss of a week's pay seem fair for a single smile? Or is this ruthless discipline the very reason the Queen's Guard became world famous? Comment royal discipline if you believe their stoic dedication is the ultimate symbol of loyalty. Weapons, deterrence, and real firepower. At first glance, the Queen's Guard appear to be the embodiment of ceremonial tradition. Soldiers in scarlet tunics, towering bearskin hats, and rifles fixed with gleaming bayonets. Tourists from around the world gather daily to photograph them, often assuming their weapons are fully functional and loaded. Yet the reality is more nuanced. The L-86 light support weapons they carry are, in most cases, unloaded while on duty outside palaces. This deliberate choice reflects both safety concerns and a layered approach to security. In a place like Buckingham Palace, where thousands of visitors gather each day, the risks of accidental discharge are too high to ignore. An unloaded weapon eliminates the possibility of tragic mistakes in crowded spaces. Yet this does not mean the Queen was unprotected. On the contrary, the rifles serve as powerful symbols, deterrents meant to project readiness and strength without escalating danger in a public environment. The true firepower resides with the Royal Protection Group, RPG, an elite unit drawn from the Metropolitan Police's Specialist Operations Branch. Unlike the guards on display, RPG officers are discreet, blending into the background in tailored suits, often indistinguishable from aides or officials. Their firearms, however, are live and ready, equipped with modern sidearms valued at thousands of dollars each, alongside access to sniper support and armored vehicles costing over $600,000 apiece. These officers form the invisible shield around the monarch. The system is intentional. Visible pageantry paired with invisible force. While the guards' polished rifles reassure the crowd of discipline and order, the RPG provides the silent guarantee that any threat will be neutralized instantly. This duality, ceremonial display on the surface, cutting-edge security beneath, creates both spectacle and substance. Even within the guard itself, the weapons carry meaning beyond their practical use. The fixed bayonets, forged to gleam in sunlight, are designed to intimidate, harking back to centuries of British military tradition. The Guard's stance with these rifles, whether loaded or not, communicates an unmistakable message. The monarchy is protected by soldiers trained to stand their ground. This careful balance of deterrence and discretion underscores the brilliance of Queen Elizabeth's security system. The rifles may not have been loaded, but the protection was very real, layered, strategic, and backed by billions invested in maintaining the Crown's untouchable image. The black bearskin hats, history and physical burden. Among the most recognizable features of Queen Elizabeth's security are the towering black bearskin hats worn by the Queen's Guard. Tourists often assume these hats are simple costume pieces, yet their origins and physical demands reveal something much deeper. The tradition began in 1815 at the Battle of Waterloo, when British soldiers defeated Napoleon's Imperial Guard. As trophies of victory, the British adopted the tall headgear not only as a symbol of triumph, but also to make soldiers appear more imposing on the battlefield. Over 2 centuries later, the tradition remains intact. Each bearskin hat stands at around 18 inches tall and weighs between 2 to 4 kilograms. Under normal conditions, this is already a significant burden for soldiers, required to stand motionless for hours. But in rainy weather, the weight increases dramatically as the fur absorbs water, sometimes adding an additional kilogram. Guards must endure this extra strain while maintaining absolute composure, a feat that requires physical strength and mental resilience. The design of the hat is also carefully considered for safety. The strap, made of sturdy leather, is worn under the chin rather than beneath the jawline. This placement prevents fatal injuries in the event of a fall or if someone attempts to pull the hat off during a confrontation. While it may appear uncomfortable, the design reflects centuries of military adaptation, where protection was as important as presentation. Controversy has surrounded the continued use of real fur. Each hat is crafted from Canadian black bear pelts, with estimates placing the cost at around $800 to $1,200 per piece. Synthetic alternatives have been tested, but none have matched the durability, texture, or visual impact of the original material. Maintaining these hats requires meticulous care. Special brushes, secure storage, and regular inspections ensure they remain pristine for ceremonial duties. For the Guards themselves, the bearskin is more than a uniform accessory. It represents both history and prestige, connecting them to the soldiers who fought at Waterloo and beyond. Yet, it is also a physical trial. Standing in the heat of summer or the chill of winter, with a fur hat weighing down on the head, tests endurance in ways the public rarely appreciates. The bearskin in this sense is both a crown and a burden, an iconic symbol of British military tradition and a testament to the discipline required to serve the monarchy. Extreme conditions, fainting protocols and health risks. Standing guard outside Buckingham Palace may look glamorous, but behind the immaculate uniforms lies a test of human endurance few can imagine. The Queen's Guard often spends hours in full ceremonial dress, scarlet wool tunics, thick trousers, polished boots, and the towering bearskin hat that can weigh nearly 9 pounds. Under the summer sun, temperatures beneath the hat and tunic can soar past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, creating conditions where fainting is not just possible, it's expected. The military has a name for this scenario: fainting to attention. Guards are trained that if their body gives out, they must collapse forward rather than sideways or backward. This ensures their rifles, worth several $1,000s each when customized for ceremonial display, don't injure fellow soldiers or tourists. The result is a surreal image: soldiers lying face first, motionless on palace grounds, still embodying discipline even in unconsciousness. To reduce the risk, a system of support exists behind the spectacle. Designated aides known as waiters provide water during sweltering days and warm drinks in the winter. Guards are trained to recognize early signs of heat exhaustion, from dizziness to blurred vision, and to discreetly request relief before collapse becomes inevitable. Yet relief isn't always possible. Ceremonial duty demands endurance, and fainting has become an accepted occupational hazard. The uniforms themselves are engineered for both tradition and practicality. The tunics, made from high-quality wool, cost around $1,200 each and are tailored to absorb moisture, concealing sweat stains that would undermine the Guard's pristine image. Boots, often polished with premium wax brands like Kiwi, must gleam even as soldiers endure cramping and swelling feet. Every visible detail is part of projecting stability, no matter the physical toll. For the public, the Queen's Guard appear as unshakable icons. But for the soldiers inside the uniform, it is a constant battle against heat, dehydration, and physical strain. Their ability to maintain composure, even when fainting face first, highlights the extraordinary discipline demanded by royal service. So what do you think? Does this level of sacrifice add to the mystique of monarchy, or is it a hidden cost too few acknowledge? Comment royal endurance if you believe this discipline is the ultimate symbol of loyalty. The road to becoming a guard, qualifications and training. Behind the polished boots and scarlet tunics of the Queen's Guard lies a selection process that is far more rigorous than most people imagine. These soldiers are not actors or ceremonial stand-ins, they are fully trained members of the British Army, drawn from elite regiments such as the Grenadier Guards, Coldstream Guards and Scots Guards. To earn their place outside Buckingham Palace requires meeting demanding physical, mental and cultural standards. Traditionally, candidates were expected to meet a minimum height of 6 feet 2 inches, projecting an imposing presence when paired with the 18-inch bearskin hats. In recent years, this requirement has been lowered to 5 feet 10 inches to broaden eligibility, yet the emphasis on stature and physical bearing remains. Height is only the first hurdle. Each recruit must pass the British Army Recruit Battery Test, A-bar, which measures memory, spatial awareness and problem solving. Only those who score highly advance to the next stages. Physical conditioning is relentless. Recruits undergo endurance training, obstacle courses and weapons handling drills to ensure they can stand motionless for hours in punishing conditions while remaining ready to act as soldiers if necessary. Health screenings are equally strict, covering everything from eyesight to cardiovascular fitness. Even writing and literacy tests are required, reflecting the expectation that guards embody not only strength but also intelligence and professionalism. The uniforms themselves underscore the seriousness of the role. A single bearskin hat can cost $1,200, while a full ceremonial kit, including tunic, boots and accessories, may exceed $4,200. Soldiers entrusted with garments of such value are expected to wear them flawlessly, projecting dignity at all times. These costs are justified by the symbolism. Every detail represents the continuity and prestige of the British monarchy. Pay is aligned with British Army salary scales, starting around $26,000 per year for entry-level guardsmen and rising significantly with rank and years of service. Yet for most soldiers, the honor outweighs the paycheck. To stand watch over royal palaces is to be part of a centuries-old tradition, one where every guard represents the discipline, loyalty and resilience of the nation. Far from ceremonial props, the Queen's Guard embody the fusion of history, military strength, and unyielding professionalism. A reminder that behind every tourist photo lies years of training, sacrifice, and exacting standards. Authority through limited commands. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Queen's Guard is not only their silent discipline, but the extraordinary weight carried by the few words they are allowed to speak. Unlike soldiers in active combat zones, these guards operate in full view of the public, often surrounded by thousands of tourists every day. In such an environment, clarity and authority are paramount, which is why their vocabulary is deliberately restricted to a handful of commands: short, sharp, and unmistakable. The most common phrases include "make way for the Queen's Guard," "step away from the Queen's Guard," and the uncompromising "do not touch the Queen's Guard." Each phrase is delivered in a booming voice, drilled into the soldier during training to ensure it carries authority over bustling crowds and camera flashes. These commands act as verbal barriers, instantly establishing distance and respect without escalating into confrontation. The design of this limited vocabulary is intentional. In crowded environments like Buckingham Palace, ambiguity can create chaos. A simple phrase, repeated with absolute authority, ensures that even visitors who do not speak English can understand the intent through tone and delivery. Guards are trained to project these words with confidence, supported by their imposing uniforms and the polished presence of ceremonial rifles tipped with gleaming bayonets. The power of these commands is magnified by context. Consider a guard standing motionless in a uniform that costs upwards of $4,200, complete with a bearskin hat valued at $1,200. To tourists, the image is both intimidating and iconic. When such a figure suddenly breaks silence to shout a command, the impact is immediate. It jolts the crowd into order, reminding everyone that beneath the ceremonial pageantry lies real authority. This discipline is not merely for show. The Guard's commands are backed by the presence of specialized units, like the Royal Protection Group, whose live weapons and discreet surveillance ensure threats are neutralized instantly, if necessary. The Guard's words, therefore, are more than ceremonial protocol. They are the visible tip of a much larger security apparatus, worth billions in infrastructure and manpower. Through this carefully controlled communication, the Queen's Guard demonstrate a paradoxical power. By saying less, they achieve more. Their restricted vocabulary reinforces the monarchy's aura of order and control, turning even a few words into instruments of discipline, deterrence, and respect. Facing public provocation with composure. Every day, thousands of visitors flood the gates of Buckingham Palace and St. James's Palace, eager for a photo with the Queen's Guard. To many tourists, the Guards are part of the spectacle, a chance to joke, wave, or even test whether these soldiers can be provoked into breaking their stoic demeanor. But what few realize is that the ability to remain unflinching under constant provocation is one of the Guard's most demanding duties. Crowds often push the boundaries of respect. Tourists may shout in their faces, pull funny poses, or make sarcastic remarks in an attempt to elicit a smile. Some go further, standing too close or even trying to touch the Guards. Yet these soldiers are trained to remain absolutely composed. Their silence is not weakness but a form of authority, a reminder that their duty is to protect the monarchy with discipline as unyielding as the stone palaces behind them. The challenge is amplified by the conditions they endure. Guards stand in full ceremonial uniform, a scarlet tunic tailored at a cost of around $1,200, trousers designed to maintain shape and absorb moisture, and boots polished to a mirror shine using high-scented wax brands such as kiwi. Adding to this, the iconic bearskin hat, costing nearly $1,200, weighs up to 9 pounds and grows heavier in rain. All of this must be worn while tourists hover inches away, snapping photos, cracking jokes, or even testing limits with deliberate distractions. Though the Guards remain silent, their authority is backed by real power. If boundaries are crossed, their first line of defense is a sharp command: do not touch the Queen's Guard. This phrase, drilled into them during training, cuts through noise and restores order instantly. Behind the Guards stand plainclothes officers and the Royal Protection Group, ensuring that any genuine threat is handled with speed and force. The visible discipline of the Guard works in harmony with the hidden strength of modern security infrastructure. In this way, the Guard's composure under provocation is not just about ceremonial tradition. It is a psychological display of control, showing that no matter the taunts or distractions, the monarchy's protectors remain immovable, projecting stability in a world that constantly tests their endurance. Mental strength, coping with boredom, and behavioral rules. Perhaps the most overlooked challenge faced by the Queen's Guard is not the weight of the bearskin hat or the sweltering summer heat, but the invisible battle against monotony. Standing motionless for hours at a time outside Buckingham Palace demands an extraordinary level of mental resilience. Unlike soldiers on active missions, where adrenaline sharpens focus, these Guards must project vigilance even when nothing happens for long stretches of time. To combat boredom, Guards use subtle techniques. Some practice silent mental exercises, reciting military drills, repeating calculations, or replaying steps of training in their heads. Others engage in discreet people-watching, observing tourists' behavior without breaking composure. This quiet focus keeps the mind alert, ensuring that the Guard does not drift into distraction. Training emphasizes this discipline as much as physical endurance, turning stillness into another test of readiness. The discomforts of standing so long are very real. Guards endure cramps, itching, sweat trickling beneath wool tunics, and even insects crawling on their faces, all without flinching. The uniform itself adds to the trial. A full ceremonial kit worth $4,200 includes boots polished to a mirror finish with luxury wax brands like kiwi and scarlet wool coats tailored to perfection at costs exceeding $1,200 each. These garments are not only symbols of heritage, but also tools of discipline. The weight, heat, and strict appearance standards amplify the challenge of remaining composed. Adding to this pressure are the constant interactions with the public. Tourists often test boundaries, posing for photos, cracking jokes, or even attempting to distract the soldiers. Yet the rules are clear: no smiling, no reaction, and above all, no tolerance for physical contact. Anyone who crosses the line is immediately met with firm verbal warnings or intervention from nearby security. This zero-tolerance approach reinforces respect for both the guards and the monarchy they represent. Ultimately, it is this fusion of mental fortitude, physical endurance, and stoic professionalism that elevates the Queen's Guard from ceremonial figures to living symbols of royal stability. Their ability to endure hours of monotony without breaking decorum proves that power is not always displayed in action. Sometimes it is in the discipline of absolute stillness. Do you think you could last even 1 hour standing like this without moving? Comment unshakable if you believe this discipline is one of the hardest tests in the world. From fainting drills carried out with military precision to rifles that looked threatening but were often unloaded, Queen Elizabeth's security blended spectacle with serious protection. Guards endured scorching heat, crushing boredom, and endless provocation, yet never broke their stoic image. Behind the pageantry stood specialized armed units, iconic uniforms worth thousands, and centuries of tradition designed to project power and stability. Her protection was more than security, it was a performance of monarchy itself. If you enjoyed uncovering these secrets, hit like, subscribe to Billionaire Story, and turn on notifications for more hidden worlds of wealth and power.